page 648. Haaretz shiru ladonai shir chadash. Once again, shiru ladonai kol haaretz shiru ladonai shir chadash. Sing all the earth a new song to God. I will sing a new song to God. Let me find the page. Sing all the earth a new song unto God. Let's try the verse again. Sing unto God all the earth a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God and we'll all sing along. All the earth a new song unto God. Shiru ladonai kol haaretz. Shiru ladonai shir chadash.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
I'm very happy to be with you tonight. And it's a little bit cooler in here tonight for those of you who have been at services with us the last few weeks, but we know that it's still a little bit toasty, so please do not feel embarrassed to get up in the middle of anything throughout the service and go get some water. There's some on the cart back there, or if you need a fan, we have some Temple Sholom branded fans in the back, and we're working on it. And we're very happy that you're here despite the heat. Today marks the 10-year anniversary of 18-year-old Michael Brown Jr., who was killed by police in Ferguson, Missouri, an event that set off nationwide protests and animated the Black Lives Matter movement, which had been founded the previous year. Brown's death catalyzed many significant and positive changes to law enforcement in Ferguson and around the country, and yet we know that police brutality against Black and brown folks continues to plague our communities. Just last month in our own state, Sonia Macy, a 36-year-old Black mother of two, called on local police to investigate mysterious sounds outside of her home near Springfield, and instead of receiving help, she was shot and killed. I'm so often reminded by folks in the community organizing space that the arc of the universe only bends towards justice because people pull it towards justice. It's an active and intentional exercise, one that requires consistent work and attention. Our tradition reminds us that we may not be able to solve outright the issues that plague our society, but that does not give us the license to neglect them. We are responsible for working towards a world of justice and wholeness for all people, those who find meaning within our walls and those who do not. So as we turn to our Shabbat practice this week, let it remind us of this sacred task and propel us to turn our prayer into collective action. We'll invite up David and Beth Inlander for our blessing over the candles, which can be found on page 120. And for our Kiddush, our blessing over the sweetness of Shabbat, we'll invite up Helene Cohn.
Page 123.
Page 123 indeed.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho, v'avahu v'ratzon hinchilanu, zikaran lema'aseh bereshit. Ki hu yom tehillah limikraye kodesh, zecher litziat Mitzrayim. Kivanu becharta, yatanu kidashta, b'kol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, b'ava uvratzon. Hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
L'chaim. Helene, you have to drink from it.
Virtual sip.
Okay, a virtual sip is good. Thanks. You may be seated as we continue our service on page 138 with Lecha Dodi. Likrat kala,
B'nei Shabbat nekavela, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekavela, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekavela, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekavela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Ish mi'Yanuel ha'miyuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shem u'tiferet v'liteilah. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekavela, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekavela. Verse 2. Likrat Shabbat lechu b'nei lecha, Ki hi mekor habracha, Merosh mikedem nesucha, Sof ma'aseh b'machshava tchila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekavela, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekavela. Verse 5. Hitoreri, Ki va'orech Uri, shir daveri, Kevod Adonai alai nida. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekavela, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekavela. Verse
Shabbat nekavela, lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekavela. We stay standing and turn to page 146 for our Baruch Hu.
La la la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la la la, la 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 la, la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai, HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai, HaMevorach. La la la, la 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 la, la 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 la.
Page 152.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Please be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher Anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibartam bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha u'lechtecha b'derech u'shochbecha u'kumecha u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha leman tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim le'olechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Words by Sarah Stock Mayo. Layers upon layers of history and story, pride and pain, unwinding, unfurling, like a flag of no nation or state, but a flag of one shared humanity. Roots, some shallow, some deep. We plant, replant, regrow, reroot, reestablish. Because destruction may be more powerful, but construction is more soul-filling. One tear in the ancient fabric that weaves us together leaves a scar on us all. But one step towards liberation creates a seismic shift that can reshape worlds we cannot outrun. What humans have wrought, but we can continue to build this world from love and hope that the work of our hearts matters just a little bit in a world gone mad. True freedom means we are all able to plant seeds, create new worlds for children to walk into hand in hand until the very last one of us is free. Mi chamocha on page 158. We turn the page, Hashkivenu on 160.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom Vehamidenu Shomreinu Shomreinu leChaim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom Vehamidenu Shomreinu Shomreinu leChaim Ufros aleinu Ufros aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha Ufros aleinu Ufros aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom Vehamidenu Shomreinu Shomreinu leChaim.
We rise for the Amidah in all the ways you are able on page 164.
Adonai Sefatai Tiftach Ufi Yagi Tehilatecha Adonai
Open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Yadalai, lai, lai, 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 yadalai, lai, lai.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu
Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'koneh hakol, V'zocher chasdei avot v'imahot, U'mevii geula livnei b'neihem, L'man shemo be'ahava, Melech ozer Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, וחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים. ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. We'll take the next few moments for some silent meditation. Whether it is meaningful for you to read the words on the page or focus on what is in your heart, I invite you to take a few moments for yourself, and when you are done, please be seated. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו, יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו, יעשה שלום עלינו, ועל כל, ועל כל, ועל כל ישראל. Ve'al kol, ve'al kol, ve'al kol, yoshvei tevel. Ve'imeru amen, ve'imeru amen. We ask for peace on earth, and we say amen. Ve'imeru amen, ve'imeru amen. We raise our voice as one, and we say amen. At this point in our service, our hearts and mind turn to those who are in need of a refuat haguf, a healing of body, refuat hanefesh, healing of spirit. If you are joining us online, I invite you to keep those who are in need of a refuah shlema, a full and a complete healing in your hearts. And if you are with us here in our kahal today, I invite you to bring the names of your loved ones, those you're thinking of, into our community so that we may pray for their collective healing together. Shira bat Chana, bat Rachel Simcha. The words to Misha Berach are on page 371. Misha Berach avoteinu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. As some of you know, next Tuesday is the holiday of Tisha B'Av, the 9th of the Hebrew month of Av, on which Jews commemorate the accumulated tragedies that have befallen our people throughout history. The destruction of the first and second temples, periods of war and poverty, all of the moments of brokenness, loss, and grief that we have experienced throughout time. And in the lead up to this solemn day, I have been reflecting on a lesson from Rabbi Conover, which she attributes to her teacher, Stephanie Ives, that this is a day on which we look around at the brokenness in our world and we just take the space to cry about it. For in doing so, we give ourselves the renewed clarity and purpose to wake up the following day and take the action needed for collective repair. Matira Surim, our prayer for freedom of captives, functions in a very similar way. It gives us the space to sit in our collective brokenness, to cry about a war that has taken so much from our people and from our world. And then it inspires us to action, to call on our leaders to demand a release of the hostages through mutual ceasefire in Gaza and Israel, an end to suffering in the region, and a path towards meaningful and lasting peace for Israelis and Palestinians. Ariel Bibas, one of the youngest captives of this war, turned 5 years old this week. He, as well as the thousands of Israeli and Palestinian children who bear absolutely no fault in this ongoing violence, deserve so much better. So we take this moment to cry, and then for them, for us, for our collective humanity, we act for a better tomorrow. Matira Suru. On page 198. One of the reasons I attended rabbinical school in Los Angeles was proximity to my extended family, and specifically my great aunt Yolanda and Uncle Len, who I grew up seeing on frequent trips to the West Coast. Now in their 90s, these two beautiful souls became my surrogate grandparents, allowing me to show up unannounced for weeknight dinners, providing consistent and often unsolicited advice, and probing for any and all gossip about their Chicago relatives. Aunt Yolanda in particular was relentless. To celebrate their birthdays this past year, one of my cousins organized a collective gift in which Yo and Len, as I call them, would be interviewed on video by various members of the family and their stories stitched together to create a beautiful film about their lives. My interview was a few weeks ago, and after the initial schmoozing, Uncle Len became quite serious. God willing, he said, you will have a long and exciting future ahead of you. At this stage in our lives, we may not have much of a future left, but what we do have is a past, one filled with lessons and wisdom that we are eager to share with you. And over the next hour or so, they did just that, telling me about their rocky first date, reflecting on their experiences during events like D-Day and the Kennedy assassination, and recalling with great joy the many adventures they had had traveling the world together. I had heard some of these stories before, but never with this intentionality, this eye towards leaving a legacy. We laughed, cried, and reminisced, and I left that interview with a deeper understanding, not only of my aunt and uncle, but also, somehow, of myself. One of my favorite rabbinic texts from our compilation of ethical Jewish teachings in Pirkei Avot comes from the 2nd century rabbi Yossi ben Yoezer, who said, "Let your home be a meeting place for the wise. Sit in the dust at their feet, and with thirst, drink in their words." There's so much richness in this teaching, and I particularly love how it describes our chain of transmission, the passage of our stories from one generation to the next, as a mutual endeavor. We who care about the preservation of knowledge must actively listen to those who have gathered wisdom in their lives, but we must also be willing to share our own wisdom with those who have the facility to carry it forward. And in Parshat Devarim, the first parsha and namesake of the last book of Torah, which we read together this week, Moses fully embodies this principle. The text begins, Ela hadevarim asher diber Moshe el kol Yisrael. These are the devarim, the words that Moses spoke to all of Israel. At 120 years of age, our prophet is approaching the end of his life. And the first verse of Deuteronomy sets the stage for his final oratory. Over the next 33 chapters, Moses will retell the story of the Israelites leaving Egypt and receiving the Torah at Sinai. He will rebuke the people for their numerous missteps, remind them of the laws they must maintain, recite sacred poetry, and bestow generous blessings. Of course, we have heard Moses speak to the Israelites about many of these topics in the past, but never quite like this. For in the previous books of Torah, Moses serves exclusively as the narrator, speaking in third person to transcribe God's messages to the Israelites. It is only in this parsha, at the beginning of Deuteronomy, that he steps forward and in first person proudly shares these words in his own voice. Now, the biblical commentators spend generations wrestling with the significance of this narrative change. Why, at the end of his life, Moses suddenly emerges as a character with a great deal to say. Why he sometimes inaccurately repeats much of what has already transpired, what we as readers of Torah already know. Some of us may remember that when God first tasks Moses with prophecy, he resists, saying emphatically, Lo ish devarim anochi, I am not a man of words. So why at the end of his life does our prophet suddenly insist on speaking for himself? A midrash, a rabbinic expansion on the text, explains that while Moses was unable to speak during much of the previous narrative, after receiving the Torah at Sinai, quote, his tongue is healed, and he began to speak words. As we read at the beginning of Deuteronomy, Ela hadevarim asher diber Moshe. These are the words that Moses spoke. This beautiful midrash teaches that while Moses has been speaking to the Israelites this entire time, it isn't until he reaches this advanced age, having experienced the Exodus, the desert, and most importantly, the Torah, that he understands the value of his own voice, what he himself has to teach the Israelites. In many ways, through his experience and knowledge of Torah, Moses' very words have become divine in and of themselves. So with little time left, he opens his mouth to share the wisdom he has gained over a lifetime, how the bonds of the Israelites' shared past can create a meaningful future for their descendants, what they must remember about their commitments to one another, to their community, and to God. The act of oral storytelling to connect past and present goes back millennia, long before film and video, paper and pen. It was words that were used to relay information, stories that helped pass on tradition and honor value systems. The Torah, as we know it today, is the written embodiment of generations of oral storytelling, of the chain of transmission passing from generation to generation, reliant on both the listener and storyteller to intentionally maintain the essence of our collective history. As Professor Alistair Thompson writes, oral storytelling is a powerful tool for discovering, exploring, and evaluating the nature of the process of historical memory, how people make sense of their past, how they connect individual experiences and their context, how the past becomes part of the present, and how the people use it to interpret their lives and the world around them. Whether Moses takes unintentional liberties with his retelling or not, his transition from a reluctant speaker to a vibrant narrative voice illustrates the transformative power of experience and reflection. After all these years, he finally understands the value of his unique words, and before he dies, makes the powerful and intentional choice to share them. Now, even the healthiest among us are unlikely to live until the age of 120. So I'm not suggesting that we use Moses as a model for when to begin sharing the wisdom gathered in our lives. But I will propose that being intentional with our legacy can have a profound impact on those that come after us. Being enthusiastic about listening to the wisdom of others is only half of the project. We must also be willing to share, like Aunt Yolanda and Uncle Len did when they told me about how their openness to a second date had resulted in almost 70 years of loving partnership. Like Dr. Stacy Reichitzer did last week when she shared with the Or Hadash community here at Temple Sholom about the importance of preserving queer history and maintaining queer community. Like folks at Temple Sholom have done with me in these past few weeks as they've helped me better understand the 150-plus year history of this beautiful community. As Jews, as lovers of Torah, we have the tools for such storytelling etched into the fabric of our very beings. It is a part of who we are. So I would encourage you, don't wait. Start listening to the wisdom of others and sharing your own now. Revel in the opportunity to leave a legacy of words with the next generation. Be like our prophet and embrace yourself as a storyteller, using your voice to inspire the many generations that are yet to come. Because I assure you, through the laughter, the tears, and the beautiful memories shared in these conversations, you will likely develop not only a deeper appreciation for your loved ones and communities, but also, somehow, for yourself. Shabbat Shalom. We're going to continue on page 586 with Aleinu, and I invite you to rise in all the ways you are able.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. At this time, our hearts turn to those who have departed this earth just recently, as well as those whose the anniversary of whose death, the yahrzeit, resides this week. In the Temple Sholom community, we are thinking of those whose families are observing Shloshim, the 30-day period after death. Bertram Miner, Rona Meisel Levine, Doris London, Magdalena Perez Gavilan, Elaine Talbert, and Janice Gertstein. And we are also thinking of those whose anniversary of whose death resides this week. Jules Amsterdam, Estelle Arvey, Michael Dean Bade, Joanne McDavid Baird, Mayor Burton, Sandra Kane, Jane Kerrigan, Robin Cohen, Dr. Robert Cohen, Francis Friedman, Ruth Frieder Führer, Reba Kamler, Sheila Kaplan, Wilma Katz, Jerome Kaywell, Catherine Klein, Meg Kleinman, Dr. Alexander Kott, Harvey Kupfer, Ivan Leon, Susan Levine, Isaiah Lipman, Lucy Lustig Curtis, Belle Lyman, Betty Lou Malmud, Frida Meister, Eleanor Meyer, Sylvia Nyberg, Leonard Pearson, Dora Pecchio, Rosalind Penn, Bernard Pollock, Yetta Provis, David Gordon Roth, Sarah Jean Ruttenberg, Juliana Schaefer, Frida Singer, Sylvia Solomon, Cynthia Seghetti, Claire Tarnoff, Robert Ullman, Ronald Vierson, Irving Weinstock, Simon Zimmerman. If there are those in your life whose names I did not read or whose names I mispronounced, I invite you, if you are joining us online, to hold their names in your hearts, and if you are here with us in person, I would love for you to say their name aloud so that we may bring them into this sacred community. Zichronam Livracha, may their memories forever be a blessing. The words to Kaddish Yatom, our mourner's Kaddish, can be found on page 598, and I invite you to rise. Dal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divra kirutei ve'amlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei de kol beit Yisrael, b'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam me'almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudusha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechamata. Da'amiram ve'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru. Amen.
We raise our voice as one, and we say, Amen.
You may be seated. We have a few announcements tonight. One being that some of you may know that we have a new Temple Sholom podcast, which is a place where we will have all of our Temple Sholom sermons, as well as guest speakers, lecturers, and things like that. So if you miss a week and you're interested in hearing the sermon or a speaker that you weren't able to come in person for, or if you want to listen to all of those things again, I would invite you to go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast, and subscribe to the Temple Sholom podcast to listen to all of the many things that we do here. Tisha B'Av, the 9th of the month of Av, as I mentioned before, is this coming Tuesday, and there are a few different things that we want to let you know about as opportunities for you to participate in Tisha B'Av, which is a traditional fasting day. We will not be doing anything here at Temple Sholom for the holiday, but we will be sending out some resources from My Jewish Learning and from Base Lincoln Park, if you're interested in participating in those to celebrate the day. We also have, Cantor, what is this last one?
Let me come over there and see. I may not know.
We have weekly educational and prayer offerings, if you didn't know. Dive into the depth of wisdom during our Saturday morning minyan and Torah study, which I will be leading tomorrow, so come if you're interested. We also are having Monday musical meditation. Is that with you?
It is not.
Oh, great.
But I'm sure it'll still be really good.
I'm sure it will be very good. And we also have Wednesday morning study group, which is a space for nurturing intellectual growth that happens every Wednesday morning and is lay-led in the summers and clergy-led during the year. So for all of those things.
I'm so glad I couldn't help you.
I appreciated the emotional support.
Good.
Those are the announcements I have for you tonight. And yeah.
Let's I love him. Let's turn to page 625, and we're going to sing the last verse of Adon Olam. And we're going to use the same tune that we sang, to which we sang Oseh Shalom. So we'll just do the ending part. Now that I had a really good idea, how should I do this? Yes, well, let's try that. Thank goodness Cantor Ben David will be back next week, and she knows what she's doing. She doesn't all the time? Well, none of us do. Let me just fake this. Thank you for the lovely intro. Oh. Ishan. You know what? Let's do something else. Let's do Beyado Afkid Ruchi Be'et Ishan Ve'aira Ve'im Ruchi Geviati Adonai li velo ira. Again. Beyado havkid ruchi be'et ishan ve'aira ve'im ruchi geviati Adonai li velo ira.
Beautifully done.
Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Please join us for an
Shabbat
oneg afterward.
There you go.
Finally, we're on mute. Did you guys, were you able to hear everything?
Yeah, Shabbat Shalom.
Well, we got on midstream.
We were in
We're
Hershey.
we're in Pennsylvania.
We're in Pennsylvania visiting my brother.
No dachshunds.
Oh my, you must be lonely.
We are. It's
Yeah, it's not the same.
not the same.
Yeah, I heard everybody loud and clear.
Good. Glad to hear that. Not everyone did.